Hello, everyone, and welcome to the regular board meeting and budget hearing and repair reserve hearing for the Iroquois Central School District Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, May 9th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And can I have a motion to move to executive session to discuss personnel? Okay. Motion by Jim, seconded by Chuck.
Jim and John.
Discussion, all in favor? And opposed, and we do have 3 people absent at this time, but we do have a quorum with 4 people here. So that motion carries, and we are moving into executive session. Thank you. Okay, hello, welcome back. It's we're just a little bit behind, but I'd like to invite our business administrator, Mr. Wolski, John Wolski, to present and discuss the budget hearing and repair reserve hearing. This is your time of year. Go for it.
Thank you. This presentation is a shorter version of the April presentation. It's really the same. Nothing has changed since then. I am required within 10 days of the budget vote to do what we call a budget hearing and satisfy that requirement. I'm up here now to do my little speech, but essentially I'm doing the same presentation, just a shorter version of the April presentation. So we have our typical vision, mission, and the things we consider when we go through the budget process. Of course, focusing on long-term and keeping things stable long-term is always the important thing for us. Philosophy, concerns, federal, we have federal funding, but that's going to expire in the coming years, so we got to manage that correctly. State aid and tax cap does not support higher costs. CPI right now is at 8+%, I think. So we're seeing that in so many different areas of our expenses, but again, our state aid and our foundation aid and our tax levy increase is very limited. It's typically under 3% every year, so that's been hard to contend with, and what's a concern going into the future, and how we can, do everything we're doing for students right now and keep that going for the next 5 years when we're restricted in our revenues that are coming in. That's our real issue. The tax cap calculation is unchanged. 2.84 is what we're allowed to increase the levy by with a simple 50% majority vote, so that is what we're choosing to go with. And you can see our history over the last 7 years there. Pretty consistent, never over 3%, and once under 2%.
Are those percentages, John, those were our proposed budgets as opposed to the actual percentages? Because I think there's, for most of the years, there's a drop between our proposal and the actual,
The percentage that actually hits the taxpayer, you mean? The tax rate? Yes, and we see that on the next slide here. This slide will show that. This one, let me go backwards. This just shows an estimated, of course, if it's a 2.84% increase, we estimate roughly a 2.84% increase on taxes, but that's not necessarily the real world, because we have 6 different townships with 6 different equalization rates, and depending on how they shuffle and change those equalization rates, a lot of different things can happen. We don't know that information right now. But what we see going on with the equalized tax rate, we see that number coming down because the values are going up so much for property. So you got a lot more value to spread the tax levy across. So the trend is that we're seeing that equalized tax rate going down essentially over a number of years. Of course, that means that everyone's got their own unique tax case at their house and what their values are and how things change. And each township has their own story of how things change too. And typically if one township goes up a little bit, one township usually goes down a little bit, and then a couple of years later it flip-flops, and it kind of cycles around who gets the increase, it seems. But it all tends to even out in the long term. State aid, no changes. The budget was settled, but we didn't anticipate any changes, and we didn't receive any changes. 3% increase on foundation aid, and really nothing of note from the budget being finalized that really impacts school that much. Doug, I don't know if you've heard anything differently about from the state level of Any kind of impact on schools?
Well, there are different things going around, and I always find it interesting because the state. Let me turn on my mic. I always find it interesting because the state comes out here with this big announcement. We put all this money towards education. But when you start breaking it down, things are earmarked, split off, and done. And that's why there's no change for Iroquois with the 3%. We had the minimum. Some states or some schools that were supposed to get more are actually receiving less now. Kind of some things I've heard from the state in general that have gone through it is high impact set aside aid. That was something they were going to force other schools to do. We didn't get enough money. They dropped that out of it, which is good for those schools. So I like to point out some good there. However, they haven't changed the amount of aid on the salary for teachers at BOCES or at Career and Tech. When we send a student there, we get aid back. It's been $30,000 for years, like 20 years. Even though costs have gone up, they've never changed that. They still haven't changed it. School meals. Everyone talked about the experience that during COVID where students were getting the meals. They put that in there saying, here's more money they put towards education, except it's for community eligibility programs, which means it's a place that have lower incomes. We won't get any of that. So again, them saying stuff for schools. They did keep in the retirement waiver. They did reduce in the back office some school financial transport, reporting that we don't have to do. Here's one thing that made me sad, because they just went and they sold how, hey, we fully funded the foundation aid formula. But now it's outdated already because it was from, I don't know how many years ago, and it's using back data. And they put in that people wanted to, in the executive budget, propose SCD study to make recommendations for changes. Well, the legislators took that out. It would have been nice to have kept that in there. So those are a few things from that report. I have another report here, much thicker. I'm not going to go through all of it, so don't worry. But in here, the expense aids for like BOCES, although they didn't change it to make it better where it should be to keep up with times, they didn't reduce it. A lot of years we're trying to reduce it, so we'll still get all the aid that we had thought we would get. Pre-kindergarten, they did expand that, so now instead of 2 classes, we're having 3 classes. Dr. Dudek's been working on getting that set up, so thank you. Zero emission bus program reporting. I know that's a thing people like to talk about. They did pass, they're going to begin annually in 24, 25. It was supposed to be 23, 24. They were talking, they bumped it out 1 year, that we're going to have to state all our progress on zero, to transition to zero emission buses, infrastructure, ability to install, whether the required workforce development report has been created and implemented, number of zero emission buses you're buying, anticipated to buy. Interesting piece is NYSERDA will be required to begin reporting on the availability of zero emission buses, charging and fueling stations. So if their report comes back, there's not enough, what are we supposed to do? How will they interlay with each other? P-TECH, they put some more money towards that, serving high rates of economically disadvantaged students, again. State level funding, I talked about that. Here's one thing that's causing me some concern, and I think it'll cause most people concern, is minimum wage increase. I mean, it's great that minimum wage would increase and people move that, but on the same token, in order to afford that, all the costs go up. And you saw some huge ripples and impacts of where that was done just recently. Sorry, I shouldn't be licking my fingers either, probably. School meal programs, I talked about that one. And that's about it of what I have to say. So in general, what's it going to mean for the future for us? I don't know what the state is going to do, and they've locked us into the tax cap where we can't make up, where they're failing short, and giving us 3% doesn't come up with CPI. And that's it really in a nutshell. They're giving us 3%. They're not allowing us to stay with the price index of what it costs to keep doing business. And if you're not keeping up with the cost of doing business, how can you do business?
Just to one point, I believe it's going to be the last 4 years, I believe we've received the minimum increase in state aid that you could. As far as I know, the formula that's used for the foundation aid, one of the big factors in that is your wealth ratio. And for as long as I've been on the board, we have either been below 1.0 or just slightly above, but always hovering around 1.0. 1.0 represents the average wealth ratio of districts in New York State. And it goes all the way up into the 40s and 50s, the highest wealth ratios. 1.0 is considered average. My question to the state, and John, unfortunately, because you're the business administrator, to you as well, how can we be an average wealth school district but receive the minimum in state aid? I've watched our state aid drop every single year that I have been on the board. And it's a shell game that Albany plays, and they keep pushing more and more of the burden onto the local taxpayers. And that is not even taking into account the unfunded mandates that they put on us. And I know this is a rant that I go on every single year, but it just really ticks me off. You cannot continue to play politics with education. If you want to see results from our schools, you can't play these political games. If you're going to give X number of dollars to public education, which our state charter says that we must fund, then give that whole amount to public education. Let's not hide it under some Excelsior plan that we're going to give this much of that money is going for free tuitions, this much is going for charter schools. That money, they need to fully fund the public schools. Period. Not get mixed up in any of this extraneous, stuff talking about, private schools, charter schools. I mean, we already pay a price for providing services to non-public schools at our expense, at our taxpayers' expense. So the games really have to stop, and things are not going to be getting any better anytime soon. And as we see inflation continue to rise, and we sit at that tax cap, things are going to get worse and worse and worse.
And the funny thing about that, using combined wealth ratio to allocate state aid, they're saying that higher income areas don't need as much state aid, but then you have a tax cap, so you're limited there anyways. You can't just go to taxpayers and get the difference in what you're not getting in foundation aid, because
as far as I'm concerned, if we're an average wealth ratio district, then we should be getting an average foundation aid increase. And 3% is far from the average.
Yep.
So how old's the foundation calculator again? I guess
it's got to be, what, Doug, about 10 years now? Because it was challenged in court. Yeah. And we won in court, and they were instructed here, you got to redevelop the formula, here's the formula. So Governor Cuomo was in office at that point. The court orders him what to do, and what does Governor Cuomo do? Totally ignores the court order, puts, we had the gap elimination, to deal with. So yeah, we're going to increase education spending by $3 billion this year. But education is actually only going to get $1 billion of this because we're earmarking it for it's just absolutely.
And most of that increase, the hand was forced to do that because there's a lawsuit against them to make up that foundation aid, and they had to pay it out, so that's why.
Right, and they were starting, but they're still not following the formula. And
well, they will this year. They've filed the formula, but the metrics of the formula
are bad.
Are all based on data that is
10 years old.
Well, I don't know if it's 60s or 70s, but
it's
like 90s, I want to say.
Yeah, I think there's some older than that.
Some older than that. I mean, it's on old data, old census information.
Thing, that was that goes way back.
This is where Dr. Timms, his presentation, he gives the dates and the years and all of that.
So if we would have all of our parents sign up for free and reduced lunches, because that particular figure fits so nicely in the formula for that, we would get a boatload more foundation aid.
Yeah.
Well, right now, I'll go back to this. 3% is the increase, that's it.
Sorry.
The important thing also
I gotta
for,
be honest, so Chuck's been saying it for years, he's got it very well practiced, but that's the truth of it. You know, when the taxpayers, they say we don't, we get emails, we'll be probably going over one later that we got about our taxes going up and why do they go up so much? And how much money do you spend going to the state that doesn't come back to your town? And that's the long, the short of it, it's a redistribution, and he says it very well, and it's very frustrating. So go ahead, John.
Thank you. But again, for people, there was talk about free lunches for all students, free lunch and breakfast for all students. That did not happen. It's, just to let everybody know, because we got a lot of questions about that. So we addressed the budget gap through these different things, looking at focusing mostly on enrollment and what we expect next year and making adjustments. That's how we kind of solved that gap. We increased our sales tax estimate. That probably goes along with CPI because people are paying more for things, so your sales tax is going to go up, so that makes sense. So you got our projected revenues. Again, no changes on the expense side. We're maintaining all instructional programs. Support services, music, all the extra stuff that we do is still going to be intact for next year. School resource officers remain, and one-to-one device replacement that we have planned to make sure kids have current devices every 4 or 5 years, we still have that intact. Capital outlay project, replacing some of the electrical panel and different things in the Elma primary cafeteria and kitchen, summer of '24, scheduled for that. No changes on the retirement system expenses. They're going to be relatively flat when you take both in consideration. Health insurance, only 3% increase. So there's our expenses. They match the revenues, and we have that's our budget number for next year. Propositions that'll be available on May 16th. Proposition 1, the general fund budget. Vehicle replacement for diesel, not electric, diesel buses. And one, if we can, a wheelchair-equipped bus. We'll see how the prices come in because that's changing all the time, and availability is very difficult right now in those vehicles.
And John, is this the last year that we can buy diesel buses, or is it next year?
Oh, I think through '27, I believe.
Yeah, it's a few
That's true.
years, but yeah.
And then the entire fleet was 2030.
Yeah, I want to say it's 4 or 5 years from now when you are not allowed to buy them anymore.
You can still use your old ones, but you can't. Anything you buy new has to be electric at that point.
Yep.
But that's
The date keeps moving, so I just wanted to make sure.
a few years down the road still.
All right, thank you.
And Proposition 3, to fund the repair reserve. I'm going to do a presentation in a few minutes about using our repair reserves, but we want to establish a new one because the one's going to end with my presentation later, and we want to have an extra repair reserve available for when things happen in the district. Again, there's no tax impact. We will fund it if we have funds at the end of the year. If we don't have the funds, we don't fund it. So there's no really change or tax impact with that proposition. We have 2 board seats open, and we have 2 candidates on the ballot. So that completes the required budget hearing that we have. When we get the questions, we did get a couple questions through email, so we want to address some of the concerns there and just kind of answer those questions so everybody can hear. The question was, what's our enrollment numbers from 22-23 to 21-22? And there are those numbers. It's really a very slight increase. Slight reduction of less than 1% from last year to this year. Did general education staff change from 10 years ago to now? And we're looking at really next year because that's what we've looked at that enrollment. So when you look at 2012-13, we had 156 general education staff members, and we project to have next year 133, a roughly 14.7 reduction in that staff.
And we want to be clear with that wording, general education staff, because there are things we have done in terms of adding in social workers, adding in counselors. These are not part of general education, and some special education needs have gone up.
So that's why we want to be clear that general education staff for the population, because you break out special ed and SEL needs, they have increased, so that's different.
For 2012, 2013, do we have the numbers for what the student enrollment was then?
Yes, I do. I think I have that. There. I'm getting to that. I'll back up quick. And again, we looked at general education because special education staff, that's required a lot of times. We can't, when we get those requirements, and we know special education population's been increasing, so that's not something that's very easily compared over 10 years. Did district administration staff change? And we look at building administrators in the district, we have a slight reduction, and I think in our budget packet mailer that we have, we
Yeah.
referenced 15% decrease on staff and 5% on
Yeah, I did
administration.
5% when it's
That's where we
4.4,
are.
so I guess I should have rounded down instead of up.
Yeah, but very close. And then the last question, how much did our enrollment change over those years? So if you look at 2,437 10 years ago versus 2,083 now, that's a 14.5 reduction. And you can see our staffing for general education roughly matched that reduction. So
One interesting thing too, because there were some comments in the question that we had talking about the cost of a private school compared to a public school, and why can a private school afford to have a lower, what they're charging for admission? And you have to remember, we're not comparing apples to oranges there. We do transportation for the parochial schools. They don't have the same special ed service requirements that we have. They're not sending kids to the CTE program at BOCES. They don't have the retirement system. And so these are all things that we do, and some of these things, textbook aid, hardware aid, library aid, the transportation, we are doing for them. So if we weren't doing it for them. Now, it's important to know there's different types of education. There's homeschool, private schools, public schools. You got to find which one's right for you. The public schools are set up, and we believe we do a great job of educating students, along with doing all these extras to taking care of all these other mandated services that other people don't do. So I just want to point that out, because that was one of the comments that was made in there. Why is there a difference? And that's why there's a difference. The mandates and requirements. And we're also providing services, health services, nursing services to parochial schools that they're not paying for. You're paying for that. The parochial schools are paying, or the people going to parochial schools are paying for that through their taxes to us that we pass on to them.
And the last question we had, where can we find the strategic plan?
John.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's important to note that, I think what you're saying then is that even though a student in the district might be going to a private school, the district's still responsible for that student, and we still provide certain things, transportation. If they need special ed services, their private school can contact us and we provide those. We're still providing things for students, even if they're not students of Iroquois, because they are essentially still students of Iroquois School District. So they're still our students.
Yep,
They live here.
they live in our district, yep. And the final question, where can we find the district strategic plan? Where it has been for about a year and a half on the front page. If you look at, there's a big icon for strategic plan, you click on that and you can find it. And then I also have the address there to find it. If you need to just type that in, you can do that as well. Any other questions for the budget presentation? Again, if you want more detail, go back to the April presentation, which is on our website, and there's a little even more detail than what I did tonight.
And always, as you can see, if you email us, we will, put the answer out to the whole public. We don't have any more forms for that, but we will get back to you and respond to you to make sure you have the information you're asking about.
Thank you. And then another 5 minutes, hopefully, repair reserve hearing. When we expend money from the repair reserve, we need to do a formal hearing so that everybody knows what we're doing with that money. That's how the reserves are written. Right now, we have these amounts in 2 different reserves in the district. This is the wording of how we funded the reserve for capital improvement, equipment, repair not occurring annually. It's shorter, the things that happen unexpectedly, that's what we have these for and what we use them for. So there's the 2009, the 2012, same wording, how we established that one. We last used this when we had to repair a sewer pipe at the start of the school year, which was a really big issue that we had to deal with really quickly, and that was completed September 14th. We used $36,000 from the repair reserve to fix that. Luckily, it didn't have to hit the budget at that early in our budget season, so that's why we have the repair reserve for things like that. What we want to use for now, there's condensate tanks and pump replacements at Wales Primary. $29,000. We have to have an outside person come in. There's not a lot of people who do that kind of work anymore on boilers. We bid it out, and that's the cost that we have for that repair. And at the intermediate building, we have a domestic condensing hot water system. We have 3 of them. 1 of them has to be replaced. We're going to buy the unit for $18,617, and we're going to do the work in-house to install it. So based on using that, we will fully use the 2009 reserve, and we'll dip a little into the 2012 reserve and be left with 1 reserve, repair reserve, hoping for voter approval to establish another one. So total request, $48,116.
And this is a good example of why the reserve that we talked about, and it's funded over multiple years of what we can save, where we can save money.
And I'm not asking for approval on repairs. We had to do repairs. We're doing those no matter what. I'm just asking for, can we pull the money out of here instead of pulling it out of the general fund budget? That's essentially what we're doing.
All right.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, John. Thank you, John.
Lower that.
Thank you. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I see why you were concerned. I get it. That's good. It's all right. That's okay. I get it. We are going to just take a moment to let our guests arrive.
And Mary Jo, ITech is going to say something really quick before they get started. They can stand right there, though. It won't take long, I think. And John, if you could let him use your mic, if you could just turn that on and hand it to him, that would be great. Betty? Betty?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Sarah, come on. Good evening. I'm Betty Deere. I am Vice President of ITAC, and with me is...
Sarah Sterles, Program Director of ITAC.
And we just want to take just a couple minutes to say thank you to the Iroquois School District and the board for their support, their commitment, and their partnership. One of the latest initiatives that we did was to change signage throughout the community. And the Iroquois District is updating their signs to include no alcohol, no vaping, no weapons, no cannabis throughout the campus and at all the primaries. This is a huge undertaking for a coalition to make an environmental change. Not only did Iroquois partner with us, but the town of Marilla actually changed their park code, and they are putting up 15 signs throughout Marilla. The Boys and Girls Club, thank you to them as well, put up 2 new signs, and Grayson Community Church put up 2 signs as well. So we wanted to say thank you not only for that, but for the support, for your tech support, for the office space, for everything that you have done for ITAC. We are in year 5 of our first leg of the grant. It is a 1 to 5 year grant, so the first leg ends in September. We did put a continuation grant in for 6 to 10 years. Don't know if we're going to get that till the end of August. So our fingers are crossed, right, that we can continue our work in the community. Sarah.
Okay. We also submitted another grant, the Stop Grant, which is the Sorry, the Sober Truth on Preventing Underage Drinking, and that's $60,000 a year for 4 years. We also won't know until the end of August, but that would also further our efforts in preventing any underage drinking on top of our federal grant.
So sometimes with a thank you comes a need, and we are going to ask, no, we are just going to ask that the support continue, that parents, students, staff continue to meet us around the table, support our efforts, our events, our fundraisers, because we are really concerned about capacity and sustainability. If we don't get the grant, we are going to be working without any funds, and we'll really need the support of all of you. So everyone is welcome to our meetings. You can find them on our website. And with that being said, any questions anybody has about ITAC? I think pretty much everybody at the table probably knows who we are, right? Okay.
And you have great events, too. They're fun to be at, so everyone should show up.
Okay. All right. Thanks for giving us the time.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to see ITAC here. Thank you. And so this officially begins our May regular meeting. So welcome to all who have come to observe the meeting of the Iroquois Central School District's Board of Education. There are 2 periods of recognitions of guests listed on the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items, and the second is for topics not on the agenda. Speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personnel complaints against an individual associated with the school system. Please address these concerns to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, please fill out the appropriate form and turn it in to our district clerk. As per policy 1514, public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents is limited to 15 minutes total unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Additionally, there are no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not be engaging in a dialogue with members of the community this evening. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and take seriously what you have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing ideas and opinions, but not engaging in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share your concerns and celebrations this evening. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and the recording will be posted on the Iroquois website. And with that, I'd like to bring forward Mrs. Murray and her kindergarten class from Marilla Primary to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Job.
All right, now y'all get to come up here for a picture.
Oh. special treat, thank you. We don't usually get sung to, too, I love it. School ambassador?
I talked to Ms. Morrison at Wales, just went over some stuff, and she gave me a bunch of dates and stuff they're gonna be doing, and I plan to attend some of the events, so.
Wonderful, good.
I spoke with Eric Nagel at the bus garage about the Patrick Gallivan visit that we're planning for possibly over the summer, so he can see the bus garage and listen to Eric's concerns about, and our concerns about the electric buses and the mandates that are coming.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody, we're at ECASB updates. Did anybody attend any workshops or meetings or events by ECASB?
We went on the road rally. I enjoyed that. That was an event Jane put together, and we toured with clues to get to different schools in the city. And Dave Lowry was my co-pilot, so we made it to all the schools. And it was a very fun event. And Thursday's the legislative dinner that's coming up. So, and then I needed somebody to attend the delegate assembly meeting on the 25th, which I said, Jane, I think you said that you would cover, correct?
Yeah, so our Heather can't go, and the backup, our alternate is Louise, and she can't attend either. If either of you would like to attend as the delegate, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I will be at that meeting and can play a dual role and vote for Iroquois.
It's Thursday, May 25th, in case you're looking.
Trying to think what else is, don't forget the annual dinner is coming up on June 8th, and you have to have your RSVP into our district clerk May 25th. So we've got another couple of weeks to decide, but we are honoring our former district clerk, Cindy Sadowski, so I'm hoping that we'll have some good attendance. And just by chance, if old board members are out there listening, you are invited as well. So just let our district clerk, our current district clerk, know that you would like to attend. What else? That's...
The BOCES,
Oh, yeah, you talked about that. You were there.
yeah, we attended the Kenton Careers and
Tech services?
Yes.
Yep.
Great facility. It was a nice program. We actually, got a little bit of hands-on, things. One of the things that I found fascinating is in their welding shop now, they've got it's a virtual welder to train people how to weld, and the immediate feedback that you get on it it's unbelievable. And I guess the feel of it, and it feels just like you're actually holding a welding rod in your hand. It was amazing. But that is I guess cutting tech in the welding world, and the machines are very, very expensive, but they were able to get one there and demonstrated. It was very nice.
What?
I would encourage all the board members when you get a chance, because I never had any experience at BOCES when I was in school, and actually never stepped foot in the BOCES until I became a board member here. And I toured the Ormsby Center, and it would behoove everybody to educate themselves in the offerings of BOCES, and they do have so many things to offer our children. Again,
Programs.
we say college and career ready, but even the career side of it is kind of push towards college, it's not the right fit for everybody, and tons of success stories, you know, from kids that have gone through some of the BOCES technical training and, you know, having jobs before they even graduated from high school, well-paying jobs, you know, by the way.
At what age can our students take advantage of the BOCES program?
When they become a junior.
What grade? Junior?
The only exception would be the P-TECH program,
Okay.
which they would enter as a freshman.
Okay.
And I believe we have a program in the middle school, don't we, an awareness program for the P-TECH
Yes.
program. And I know we always try to have some BOCES present at our open houses.
If nothing else, if you have the opportunity to visit one of the BOCES programs through ECSB, they always have the culinary students make something.
Oh, yeah.
It was a full meal. I mean,
Oh,
we
yeah,
we had roast beef, mashed potatoes,
I-
asparagus and green beans, and then they had gazpacho with crab and shrimp and creme brulee, and this to die for mozzarella cheese salad. Oh, but like just that alone was worth going. But I also,
If you don't want to set up a special time, just look for a BOCES open house.
Yeah.
Go to a BOCES open house, you'll experience a lot of the same things
Thanks.
at the open house, and they do all, at least at Ormsby, the culinary students always, have a
wonderful.
sampling of things, for everybody that's, going through the open house to sample.
I had the opportunity to sit in the electrical classroom, and they taught me how to rewire, the the plug sockets. If you have one that's loose, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever, Elma Hardware, and grab yourself one for about $1, $1.50, whatever, and you can redo those yourself now. And now I can do it because I had two really nice high school young men teach me how, and they told me I'm ready. So all I have to do is figure out where my electric box is to turn the power off, and I can rewire my whole house now.
And it was refreshing as well. I met a lovely young lady, I believe she's a junior, who is in their welding program as well. So, and I believe there are some female students in some of the other trade programs.
In my group, we had a discussion about how there's a whole day that they spend for girls in tech. And there is a big push for girls to be in these programs, just, and for gentlemen to join the programs that are traditionally considered, programs that the girls go to. So, it's nice to see that there's that, they're definitely crossing those boundaries and letting students really explore. The other thing that I really liked about one of the messages I heard was that, if you get a student there and they realize, hey, maybe welding really isn't for me, but I kind of like to check out the electrical program, they have the ability to be able to shift them into those programs so that if they get there and they're like, I made a mistake, they can find another spot for them in another program and keep them on their path. So it's great.
So I realized why I didn't go to the open house, because I was at STEM night at the middle school.
Oh, well,
Yes,
then-
and it was in person this year, and it was amazing. But if somebody was interested in finding out when the next open house is for Erie One BOCES, just on the website, or are we?
Yeah.
I would think that would be.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
maybe
know
something
the-
good to advertise in a
They
Friday.
typically have open houses like at the beginning of the
Yeah,
year.
I know they
Okay,
I know Hartness just had theirs a couple weeks ago, because I went to that one.
okay,
But you can go to the website, and if you can't, just email the principal. They'll know.
Okay.
They'll tell you.
If there's one that you're interested or close to your house, email the principal, and they would
Okay.
let you know.
or maybe highlight it maybe in a Monday message, because your Monday messages have been quite lengthy lately, which is good. A lot of content, it's a good go-to
Yeah.
place for,
Yeah, no, and I'm pretty sure they're all over now, but I can find out and
okay,
put it in for next year.
thanks.
So our next thing is to remind the public that our budget vote is next Tuesday, May 16th. Polls open at 7:30 and close at 9 p.m. 7:30 in the morning to 9 p.m. And it's in the gymnasium of the, the II building.
The
so-
II, but for
Yeah, it's-
fifth and sixth grade gymnasium.
Yeah. Same place it always is, folks. Come out and vote. And we do have then another look-see at our.
Before you go on to
Sure.
that, for the budget vote, this is the first time when you sign in, so anyone listening, pass it on to your friends, that you'll be signing in using an iPad. So there will be still the people checking and knowing who you are. You do not need to go to any particular line. You come in, you go to whichever line, it's like the grocery store, pick the shortest line or the one with your friends, and you'll go up there and there'll be the iPads. Is there anything I'm missing with that?
If it's your first time voting, you need to bring identification with you.
First time voting, bring identification with you to sign in. And absentee ballots are still available.
Okay?
Okay? Thank you.
And then that brings us to our exit survey, so we can take a look at that. New version, and approve that. I like the arrow at the bottom that says, please turn over, so that people know that there's a backside.
Yep. And looking at the other one, there was the comment, please use the space to make a comment on for any other topic. And we're also looking to add main source of information, new communication system. Those were and we took off one question that we felt would maybe give the wrong inclination of where we were as a district.
I wasn't at the board meeting when you were discussing this, but I was able to see some of it online. And you decided to put the question about electric buses on the survey.
That was the one we were supposed to remove, right?
We removed it.
It's on
It's
your
here.
vote.
It's here. I thought it was supposed to be, that's why I asked.
And you weren't even at the last meeting.
No, but I went.
Yeah, it should be gone.
No, that should be off. Yeah, it's on. Must have given you the wrong copy. So let me cross that off. That is not on it. So ignore that last question on the first page. So thank you for pointing that out. So if I was to walk through it, and Nora will point me in the right direction if I go anywhere wrong. The first thing would be I voted today for Proposition 1, 2, 3. Then there'd be you could write in a reason of why you voted the way you did. The next thing, what was your main source of information? And would you like to see anything added to the budget newsletter so we can improve on that? And you can see in the bottom of the first row where it says new communication system, that's where we added that piece in. Then on the back, it says, please use the space to make comments or suggestions on any other topic. That was what was wanted. And which town do you reside, so we can just kind of demographics. And the number of students residing in your household, again, so we can check on the demographics of who's voting. Those would be the only questions on it. Again, the bottom one on the first page would not be there. And this is why we review things.
And I know we brought it up, I had brought it up last time when we took off that particular question. We talked about possibly having an informational night on electric buses for the community.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't scheduled or anything with that yet.
We're still going forward on that, though.
What I did write down a note is to have a presentation on electric school buses during the district planning conference, and that would be the time we can discuss having an informational session and everything. To get that set up, I would think the best time would probably be during the school year. Probably October-ish, I think would be good. But we want to also balance that because of the district planning conference. We'll be also talking about the timeline for having votes and stuff on the mascot change, because the state did pass its regulations on that. We just want to make sure there's no conflicting dates or times in there.
Okay. And then, the last item under board discussion is graduation. Typically, the board president does speak at graduation, does an address for the board. However, we will also pass that responsibility on to a board member if they have a graduating senior. So we have two board members who have seniors this year, and so Louise is not here, but are you interested in speaking
Yeah, I would be,
at graduation? Okay, so,
Do we want to listen to you?
probably.
all right.
Sorry, I probably should say that,
So
but
I happily relinquish that responsibility to you, so you can speak at graduation for us. So make sure you, go ahead, what,
I mean, roughly how long is it normally, customarily?
5 minutes?
Should I bring charts?
charts.
Have a presentation.
I'll be like, congratulations. Now, Mr. Speck is going to talk about unfunded mandates. We'll be here for.
I think it's usually about 2-3 minutes.
I think mine was 5.
It's not really, yeah.
Mine was
What you
5.
Keep it under 5.
Yeah, yep. Something inspirational, you know. Okay, very good. Then that's, does anybody have anything that's not actually on the agenda that you want to talk about? You already talked? Okay, all right. Then that turns us to the superintendent report. Mr. Schofield, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Responses to last month's public comments, there weren't any. We did receive one question about the budget, which we already did cover during the budget during the budget hearing. So thank you for covering that, John. And we are actually going to email that family back those answers just in case they're not watching to make sure they have them. So that will probably go out tomorrow. Student cabinet report. Student cabinet report, we continued working on discussing and brainstorming on with the now New York State required change of mascots, of what would be good working with the students. They went through, they modified, we had things, it was really neat because we'd get so far, then we'd go all the way back and go and change it. Groups, we stayed with the same 4 groups, and I'll go over all this in detail with the board during the district planning conference. We did have in there where there was going to be a mascot vote, and after we get the mascot, then another vote on picking the logo for the mascot.
So the name.
So first we'll get the name of what it wants to be, because like, say currently we're the Chiefs, so it'd be selecting a new name for Chiefs, and then if we pick, I don't want to lead anyone down any path, the new chief, we'll say, but it can't be chief. Bottle of water. Then they would submit, that's select, now we advertise that out, go through a timeline in a second, and now people can draw logos for that symbol.
And it's open to everyone in the community?
So with that, that was a discussion we had. So in this, for ideas, and we had different numbers before today, for putting ideas in for a mascot, we said all groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be students 5 through 12, community, admin, teacher, staff, coaches, trainers, and Board of Ed. Those are the groups. For ideas for the vote, for the mascot, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would actually be for both votes. We'd open it up to everyone. And we talked about the form we'd be doing that in. In the process, they wanted to do it on Forms, which is Microsoft. We can put a link on our webpage. Then access upon request for paper. So if someone felt they couldn't do forms, then they could write the school or call the school, and then we could send them out. We discussed forms too. We went into that a little bit. Dr. Dudek will help me here if I get off on it, because we talked about, well, is there a possibility for someone doing something twice or voting twice? And we said, well, there's always that possibility if you use multiple computers and change IEPs, and you can do it. But they said with this, they felt there'd be such a small possibility, and that if someone did it, it wouldn't skew the data. So they're going to recommend, I'll put in my recommendation, if I keep with that would be worth it. They thought everyone should just get one vote, but they also felt that people could do it. I think it was optional for saying who you were with this, but we'd have to track IEPs or something like that. So I'll work with Dr. Dudek. So don't quote me on that one. It's like I have notes all over the place because literally it was the meeting today. And then let's see what else was. So everyone, and then for the logo would be the same thing, where everyone could participate in that and have input on it. The process, We went through a process of doing the different votes, kind of is covered in the timeline, which was new. And this is a rough timeline because we weren't really looking at a calendar, so these are general dates. We'd start in September with information going out with the norming meetings to the students and any parent meeting that's happening, and on the Monday messages. I don't have it written down here, but of course it'd be on our webpage and things like that. It'd probably be a good idea to put an ad in the newspaper where they could find it, of where to get the information, to get everyone pointed in the right direction of what's going to happen, which would have all the timeline and different processes there. Then in October is where would be the month of October for submitting ideas. People have a whole month to submit ideas. Beginning in November, 1 through 7 is where the administrators will review the ideas to make sure they hit our non-negotiables. Appropriate, not a duplicate in New York State, single design, a simple single design, because we talked about how it would look in color, black and white, and they said, we talk about mascots, because if you look at a lot of people, they draw a mascot, and then you see another version of it and another version of it, and they said, we really had a long conversation on this. They said, no, there's one, this is what's used for everyone. You might make it bigger, you might make it smaller, but this is the one you use. Same thing with colors. Here's the colors you use. Don't have multiple ones out there, because we looked at the current one we have now where one has 2 feathers, one has 4. There's a single one that's used everywhere. That's it, period. And again, this will all be presented much better format to the board during the district planning conference in July. So that's where they're submitting ideas, administrative review. Then they would have a committee, once they got anything that's inappropriate or anything from the administrators, of saying, these are the top 25 from this committee. So we'll actually have to have, part of this is having people come to a committee and volunteering to be on that committee. After the committee looks at it, they'll present the top 25. There'll be presentations of that through the end of November 16th through the 30th, and then December 1 through 14th would be the first vote. December 15th to 17th, we'd be presenting and talking about what is the top 5, and then there'd be a second vote at the end of December through January 3rd. We specifically picked January 3rd because that's 2 days after coming back from break, so we can make sure the reminders are going out from people on vacation for the second vote, and on 4th, we would know what the new mascot name would be. From there, in the January, for the month of January, submitting designs for that new name, new mascot. And then February 1st and 2nd, they gave a much tighter time frame here for this, of reviewing those pictures to make sure there's nothing inappropriate in any of the pictures. And then it looks like the 3rd through the 11th, we would advertise of what those were. Again, it'd be the top 25. Would there be the first vote? We narrow it down to 5. In beginning of March, 4th through 7th approximately, we'd make people aware of that. And then March 11th through the 25th would be the second vote, again, 2 weeks for voting. And then March 26th, we could announce it. March 26th might be a Sunday or something, so we might have to tweak that day of when we're announcing it, but then it'd be nice to be a Monday message. They could do it for students coming back, I'm thinking. And then, because that's happening in March, we know where it is. That gives us time in April to get contractors in place to redo any of the floors or anything that need to be done, of where current logos are. And then we can move forward. So with their timeline, we would be starting on it the 24-25 school year. Those people will be graduating under the new name, or not under the new name, that implies Iroquois, under the new mascot and logo.
I have a question that just popped into my head. During this time, while we're making this transition, are we still going to be known as Iroquois Chiefs until the new name is selected, or do we cease being chiefs as of the board voting on the resolution?
We would still be using it because we're saying that we commit to changing. It's not saying we are changed. So the way I understand it, the way it's been communicated to, and that's some of the clarification I'm double, triple, quadruple checking on, is the class of 2024 would be the last one under the current way we're doing anything.
So even though we would know the new name and logo by the end of the school year, the current junior class would still be graduating as Iroquois chiefs.
Correct.
And we will use Iroquois chiefs
Yep.
throughout the school year.
Yeah. And I know there's been a big rush for people buying things right now, but as we design things and buy new clothing, I don't want duplicate costs for the taxpayers. We will be just putting like Iroquois on it for the newer stuff we're buying for that reason. I saw one gentleman in here tonight with the pledge where he had feathers on his shirt for Marilla. Those things we wouldn't be doing anymore because it'd be nice for people to have clothing that they start buying that they can keep wearing for a long period of time. Now granted, the state did change that at events outside school sporting events, if you had old stuff, you could still wear it, so we don't have to monitor that. So the SROs are probably happy they don't have to check for what people are wearing coming in at events. But we're going to start moving forward with that. But, during the day, that when, at school, that would be something different because it's not we changed, wink, wink. We can still do the old stuff. It's, we have changed. This is the new identity.
And new stuff like for football, because the climb is the acronym we use, there's gonna be like, our logo will just be a mountain with the climb on it and Iroquois, just for that reason, because we didn't want to do a whole bunch of stuff with the chief on it, have everyone buy it, and then in theory, it'd be gone.
Yeah, I know that I will be having a new red wardrobe in my house because everything I have seems to have a male figurehead on it. So, and that's okay. I probably should be buying new clothes anyways.
And Doug, the Regents letter implies that it's not the name, but did we,
Haven't finished on finding that through. What I've been
Okay.
doing is I got a couple more today and talking to people, questions to clarify.
so we're just want it in writing, not implied in a letter that
Yeah.
our school name
Yep.
is
And actually,
staying.
the state, Friday, I just found out, I had been talking to Ms. Coghlan's there, and she has actually moved into a different position, so there's a new person I'm going to be talking to. Now, she's moved up in ranks, so I'm sure anything she said, and knowing her, the person that's in the position below her will be saying the same thing, but this is a good, that actually just found that out Friday. So that'll be a good person for me to reach out. Our liaison in our area is Dr. O'Rourke, so I've already talked to him about reaching out, so he's going to be CC'd. I did that Friday with him. Oh, and forms, I didn't talk about forms. We talked about as people submit things, that's where it was. We're optional for the names on forms when you're submitting ideas. We said you can just submit it. We're gonna put an optional spot on there for reasons for the name. So if you want to add a little more gusto, that they felt it shouldn't be required, but that it should be optional. Again, board can change this. And we should also have on there a list of things that are non-negotiable, and then do the same thing as the design, just so people are aware that if you do this on it, it will not be looked at, it will be stopped at administration, and that's it. So you won't even get people won't even get the laugh of, if you think it is funny, which it probably won't be if we're getting rid of it, of anyone seeing it other than maybe one administrator or two, and it's out. But any idea will be gone through as long as it's appropriate.
So can I ask, because we have to have the resolution in place by end of June 30th.
Yeah, it'll be a June
So at the
meeting.
next board meeting, are we approving that resolution, or are we going to have a,
It'll be a
different meeting?
resolution I put forward to the board. You'll see it ahead of time before the
Okay.
June meeting. And therefore, that's where, under consensus agenda, if you wish to modify or change any of it, you can.
Okay.
But it'll be really straightforward. It'll say, Superintendent recommends the Board of Education to approve following the new regulation, whatever number it is, of the New York State Education Department and its commitments to change its logo and mascot by the appropriate time frame.
Okay.
They ask me in an hour from now, I'll give you a different resolution, say just about the same thing.
I did get an interesting question from the public, a member, about because if we don't adopt this resolution, that the superintendent and the Board of Education will all be fired.
Yes,
And whether or not the Board of Regents has the ability to do that.
they
Answer
absolutely
right.
have the
They do?
ability, they
Okay.
have done it, and,
I said I would ask.
yep,
Okay.
oh, yeah. so.
Have they ever, like, in the past, ever tried to make a state change that said that we're gonna fire everyone unless you comply? Because they didn't even do that with the masks, really. They said no state funding, but is this the first time that they've ever?
It was mostly monetary threats.
Mostly monetary, but there was one school district in our Western New York area that did make a resolution and say something. It wasn't about masks, it was about something else, I can't remember, and they went in there and said, if you don't retract and go in this direction, everyone will be removed. So they have gone in and done that. I'm trying to remember if they've actually followed through. I know they've removed individual board members, but never a complete board that I can recall, but they have removed members of the Board of Education.
Okay, thank you.
And for me, they probably wouldn't remove me, they'd probably just pull my license, and that way I'm unable to be employed because I don't have a license anymore, so that's an easy workaround for me. You laugh, but yeah, I already know how I plan to get rid of me. All right, capital project update. So capital outlay, John will help me with this. We did open a bid for work in the middle school, the 5th and 6th grade cafeteria. There's a stage in there. When we opened it up, it was like triple estimates.
Only one bidder was willing to put a bid forth, and it was well above our $100,000 capital project budget. So we're going to go back to the drawing board and pare down the project and try and get some work done within the new world of cost for projects that we do. Things have changed a lot.
Why are we taking out a stage? Why are we doing that in the first place?
It is so dated, and the electrical and everything is so dated there. It's not like something we could salvage and use or as a stage anymore anyways. So just getting the extra space, we do airsoft rifle in that room, and just having that extra space would be great. And just to kind of update how the whole thing looks. And we've been trying to update cafeterias and get them a little better up to date, and that's a good way to kind of approach that one and get some more space.
And in not the current capital project, the last capital project, we did update both auditoriums in the high school and middle school, and that's where they have any and all performances now in one of those for the children. The other thing is, I just want to say that the new electrician is here and working. It's not just a myth, because I actually looked out, I was in Dave's office the other day, and I looked down and I go, the blue light's on the wall. So the blue light that the other contractor couldn't find, not only was it found, but it was also established and put on there, so we are moving forward with that. We did have a glitch because they didn't run the old electrical contractor a multi-purpose cable to the scoreboard. Where the part of it did go out at a lacrosse game the other day. We did have, not Dave, but I think it was, can't think of the name of the people put in the board, but they came in right away, worked with it. Who was it? Toth school boards. They came in, worked with our computer people, and it's back up and running now. And the new electrical contractor is getting that right wire in to do it, that multi-cable. They did do some specs. They're hoping they have it in stock so they don't have to order it, because it's a longer process to order. So some things are showing up that we didn't even expect to show up, so that's really great. So we're glad to have them on board. Moving on to curriculum update. Dr. Dudek.
So I have some good news. Last week, we submitted our Seal of Civic Readiness application. So hopefully, once the state reviews it, we'll be approved and start with that next fall. Also, I've been working with PLC over the surveys, the triangle surveys, and I'm still just double checking that the questions are the same as the last time. But we are thinking of having the survey window open the last week of May and the first week of June for a period of 2 weeks. We don't want to go too long, but wondering if that's okay, or if you want to do the first 2 weeks of June.
Do we have a holiday in the last week of May, right?
Well, it's kind of like the last few days of May and the first few days of June. So, I mean, it's perfectly fine if we just want to run it from the day after Memorial Day, which I think is
That's what I'm trying to
the
find on
30th.
my,
And go, that week and the following week.
Some people may do it on the 29th if they're off,
That's true,
That's true.
because they're off.
yeah.
right.
I don't
That's
think
a good
it's
point.
I don't think it's a negative, I think it's only a positive.
I'm good with that.
So which was the final thing? I was looking at my calendar, trying to find.
The last week of May and first week of June,
Okay.
2 weeks.
Last week of May,
Yeah.
first week of June. Okay, thank you.
And are we sending the link out like to people's email addresses or in Monday messages?
We'll share them with, the community ones, we'll share with all the principals to put them out in their weekly messages. Doug will have it out on his. We'll post it on the website. The students I'll work with the principals to get it out to the students, and we'll send emails to the teachers.
And put it in the paper
How
too.
much flexibility do we have on the website as far as, positioning stuff and what they look like? Any?
What do you mean position?
Well, I look at some other schools' websites, and when they've got big events, it's like a banner just hits you in the face.
Well, we can have that actually happen, like an announcement, as soon as you click on the website, it just comes out, so we'll work on that. I'll work with Deb Metz on that.
Yeah, because I know there've been times when, I've gone on our website, and I'll just be hunting around, for things.
Yeah, we try to have it right on the front
I
under
know you do.
announcements, but we can do that pop-up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So again, last week May, first week June,
So
and pop up on the,
another question that I have for community members who don't have children in the district, there is a survey for them. If they didn't fill out the original survey, they can fill out this survey. Their voice still matters, and I kind of want to point that out, that you don't have to have participated in the first survey to participate in the subsequent survey. So,
Yep.
okay, right.
In fact, we hope to get a higher participation rate.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
there-
nice.
So hopefully there are people that didn't fill out the first one and are filling out the second one.
One thing that I know too, that besides just overall participation, student participation, is it gonna be open to students as well, or just?
Yeah, they have their own survey.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, so there's a student survey, a staff and faculty survey,
And
a
a
parent, and a community.
Hopefully we'll get.
So I also wrote down newspaper, I know it wasn't said, but we'll get it in the newspaper too. All right, whoops, gotta keep moving things through here. The next thing I believe is the NISBA Awards. What's that? Oh, that's what she was just talking about, the survey with the strategic plan, that's part of the strategic plan. The other aspect, I mean, John, give an update on facilities, because we just had a meeting with that.
I think the Facilities Committee has met, I think we did our fourth meeting. We've gone through all the buildings individually, plus transportation building, plus athletics. We are going to meet a week from Thursday to kind of start to summarize the information and come up with that priority list that we want to have to give the board over the summer. And then hopefully have a narrative piece to kind of go with that for the board to review.
And by what he says, hopefully it's, we will.
Just about the strategic plan, and add to Chuck's point about the website, are we still considering kind of giving that a revamp? As
We
part of
want
the
to get
strategic
the app going first.
Okay.
So that's the communication piece. With everything going on, that's kind of, I was hoping to have that done by now, so,
Okay.
we're probably hoping to say, told you.
but I don't blame her. And it's just with the mask on and things going on right now, I just haven't got to that piece, and so we'll get to that.
Okay.
And get that going, because I think that is going to be a big piece, because that'll help with the calendar. And let's face it, most people do things on their phone now. And I think that's where the biggest frustration comes on, so when we have the app, we can go there quickly.
Thanks.
NISBA Awards, New York State School Boards Association, that's what NISBA stands for. Recognition program is designated to acknowledge those school board members who have continually expand their governance knowledge and skills. Our records indicate that one or more members, so we have 2 of our district's board members, education have earned one of our board awards ranging from 1 to 4. This program is to acknowledge them for achievement levels. Please note and the cutoff is March 31st. So let's move on to the awards. The first one we have is for Louise Toth. So congratulations to her. She is a level, I have to look up on my little cheat sheet. She reached a level 1 this year, so congratulations to her for that achievement.
Congratulations, Louise.
The next person, who is a level 3, congratulations, is Jane Sullivan. So you get a little thing right here, and then you get 1 complimentary training. Now, Jane, if you keep moving down this path to level 4, the Board Lifetime Achievement, the NISBA Board Lifetime Achievement Plaque, a free registration to one of our annual conventions, and recognition at the convention, and recognized in the on-board, and you get an executive pen set.
Nice. How many
More
points?
importantly, you are going there and learning about what to do as a board member, and I know other board members are attending these events, so in truth, really thank you. Thank you to Louise Tooth, and thank you for the board members who haven't got enough points yet, because I know you go to the events for going there and learning, and because you don't get paid for this, and giving up your time and going to these events that are session after session after session after session. Thank you so much for doing that.
And now I get a free one.
What's that?
Now I get a free one.
Yes, now you get a free one for more points. It's like, playing those arcade games. The other thing I have for recognitions, the first one is starting with, is from Erie County Association of School Boards. We have the Rising Star Awards for 2023. Jim, you are a rising star, so congratulations for that. That means you attended 7 to 9 committee meetings, programs, or events. Again, a lot of time, thank you so much. I know other board members have attended that. But we also have a Shining Star Award for joining 10 or more. And so Heather and Jane, both of you are shining stars. So thank you for all your time and commitment to going to those. Congratulations to the Radio Club. They submitted a request to the Iroquois Foundation. For those who don't know, the Iroquois Foundation is committed. They raise funds and they give all of it right back, all of it, I mean seriously, all of it, right back to the school. And they, so thank you to the Iroquois Foundation. And they submitted a request to support this club and is awarded funding to help purchase 2 new speakers. So they have a website, they have links off our page if you wish to do it. We have a teacher that wants to recognize some of their fellow co-workers, wonderful people working at Iroquois. So Mel Alberchinsky, Heather Ross, Mark Slabach, Diane Campbell, and Judy Gingrich. All the things they've been doing for the students, always available to the students, always calm, helping, caring, make students feel included in every PE class, looking out for students at all different aspects during the day, and getting to know the students individually to make a great connection with them, and just being there every day, all day for the students. Rural Outreach Center wants to thank Iroquois, and it's for the Miles for Mental Health Walkathon. So our counselors, I don't know if they're in here by name, but our social workers in the high school did the mental health walkathon here, and they had a gift of over $200 that went to them for that work. So excellent with that. I believe last year was the first year, and this is the second year, for the Iroquois flag football, and we had a family write in, a mother and father who wrote in just thanking for what the district did for their daughter, because absolutely loves it. It's a great sport. They're track athletes that want to get out there, and these young ladies who have not, can go out and find a niche with the flag football, watching them. Ironically, I got this Friday. I was at a superintendent's meeting. I received this on Monday. After all the superintendents, I was watching them around the table, talking about how great it was to see the flag football, the people playing there, how they did the games. It's supported a lot by the Buffalo Bills. They got there to go and play on the turf field. I didn't go this year. I did go last year. And I knew Iroquois was one of the first teams in there last year. So I was kind of chuckling to myself of saying, yep, way to follow us. The next one in here is, and I don't know wherever to put things. I got to be honest, who do I want to recognize first, second, or third? To me, this one could be any place in there, because to me, this is a great recommendation. I kind of live my life, everything I do, I could do better. I'm always trying to improve and do better. I don't know what to do with this group. I don't know how to have them do better. I don't know how many years in award. This is for the bus inspection system. 100% passed again this year for their different inspections that they're doing, and this isn't the first time. I mean, it seems year after year after year they're getting 100%. So to the mechanics in the bus garage, excellent, great job, because students being safe on the roads and in our weather conditions and having the buses always ready to go is not a small task. I know because I have a big crack in my windshield right now. So therefore, they're taking care of a fleet of buses, and they're constantly out there doing that, so congratulations to them. Western New York Scholar athlete for the winter 2023, we have winners. So in here, let's see, for the winners, Matt on the boys swimming, Ariana for the girls indoor track, Braden for the boys ice hockey, Ariel for the girls bowling, and Marissa for competitive cheerleading. We had honorable mentions. Girls basketball had 3 with Aurelia, Olivia, and McKenna. Boys swimming had Alexander. Boys ice hockey had Kevin, Reed, and Michael. Indoor track had Ava and Brendan, and another one, and Sarah. Boys basketball had Nathan, and competitive cheerleading had Charlotte. So congratulations to all of them. A scholar athlete is excellent. That's, the combination of being well-rounded is superb, and congratulations to all of them. And that's what I have for my report.
Great, thank you. That brings us to recognition of guests. Do we have any guests that would like to be recognized?
No.
No. For those of you watching the streaming, there's no one here but the board and our SRO and our tech person who's streaming the meeting. Okay. So that brings us to our discussion on agenda items 13.01 through 25.11. Does anyone have any questions or comments about these agenda items?
Thank you to the district clerk, because last time we talked about making adjustments to the agendas, and she painstakingly went through and completed all that. So thank you very much for doing that. The other one I have is, I want to point out on policy 8330. You don't have to go to it, I can read it to you. It says in here, a committee may include, and this is when someone puts in here objecting to instructional materials or controversial issues, it says the committee may include, among others, school library or media specialist from the building where the objection was made, and the principal. From the library media specialist, they ask if that could be changed from the committee will include, to make sure they're on it. Ironically, I did have a discussion with this with fellow superintendents on Friday, and we discussed how library and media specialists do go and have training in library and media material, and obviously the principal would be talking about age appropriateness in there. I think that would be a change. Plus, they also have a lot of backup documentation, so thank you to all the librarians within the district about having regulations of how to implement the policy. They worked on it, they spent extra time, forms and everything else, and everything then would parallel each other very nicely, because the other spots say will, and this is the only may in there.
So that's acceptable, that change will
Yes.
be presented at the third reading. And I'll keep this to hand it to you as things go. That's the only thing I have for discussion.
I just have one quick question. It was on the, in the agenda, on the parent transportation contract.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of get what it is, but what exactly?
So what it is, sometimes a student develops a unique circumstance, and they may be one child having to go to another location. It could be, for some reason, having to come in, let's say, they get injured and break their leg. I really don't know for this case, so please don't anyone think I'm reading into this one. I'm just using examples, and so therefore, we could go out and hire a contracted bus service, or we could, when we bid it, parents can bid on it, and it's established rate. They don't get to pick their rate, it's the IRS rate. It's forced on that, and that sometimes is much more cost-effective to the district. So we go there, I'm looking at John, anything you want to add? I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, we always try to do it ourselves, but with limited resources and people and all that stuff, sometimes this is the best option, the lowest cost option of everything available. And these parent agreeing nicely to do this for us is typically helping us.
No, it was a special case thing, that makes sense. I was just, sometimes in Buffalo, they were there.
No, it's not Buffalo where everyone's driving their child to school and we're paying them. That is not the case. It's where it's cost-effective for the taxpayers.
Makes sense.
And we do have two groups that have donated money, the New York Federation of Women's Club and World Class Taekwondo. So we'd like to say thank you for your donations. All right. If that is all, is there a request to withdraw any items from the agenda? We did that already. Okay. Is there a request to withdraw any
Jane,
items?
I have a question just about one of the policies, about the books,
Okay.
right? So the sentence that's crossed out says, textbooks once designated cannot be superseded within a period of 5 years except by 3/4 vote of the board. What does that mean?
What that means is, in some districts, you get mass movements where people come in and try to change the board dynamics. This happened for the mascots in Cambridge, or no, I can't think of the name district, so forget whatever name I said. But it happened there where the boards made a decision and then it was overturned the next year, causing a lot of chaos. And so that's where the state wants that in there in order so that doesn't happen. There has to be a time period, unless there's like a super majority voting for it, to provide for consistency so you're not changing over your libraries every other year because of who's getting elected on the board.
Okay, but then who, because I know books have been kind of discussion points here and there, and like who decides what books end up on our, in our libraries?
So the libraries, that is the library and media specialist,
Okay.
which is part of all the stuff that they gave me with the regulations behind. And what they use, because they order hundreds of books a year, they use these surveys that are made up of librarians that actually designate books in it. And they fully recognize that a book might come through or not be exactly what they want, which is why we have the challenge form in case that comes to light so they can review it. But they also have a process too. One library reads a few hundred books, well, even more than that, I forget how many books, but it was a few hundred books a year that are in the library, constantly checking, reviewing them, doing their own internal reviews to make sure that not only have they changed with the times, but that they're age appropriate, they meet the right criteria. And that's the big thing of being age appropriate for material, because in the policy it does talk about having a diverse selection because people have different interests, but also there's the age appropriateness of the material they're reading too.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Then is there a request to withdraw any items from the agenda? No. Okay. And then a request to add specific items to the agenda. I do have an addition given to me before the meeting. It would be under our personnel resignations, and it says 19.03, the superintendent recommends to accept the resignation of Michael Mitri from his position as special education teacher effective June 30, 2023 pursuant to the terms of the settlement agreement between the district and Mr. Mitri, and hereby approves the terms of the settlement agreement and authorizes the superintendent to execute same. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? And with 3 people absent, that motion does carry. Are there any requests to add any other agenda items? Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda items 13.01 through 25.11? Discussion. All in favor? Okay, and that motion carries. And that takes us to, do we have any guests for the end of the meeting? Nope. Okay. Then do we need an executive session?
No, we do not.
We do not. Alrighty
I
then.
don't, in case anyone else does.
Can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Second.
All discussion?
Oh, yes. Put your feet up.
All in favor?
Annual, or monthly.
And that motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank